Batman movie review, directed by Matt Reeves and starring Robert Pattinson as the Batman. Welcome back to another episode of Geeking Around. I'm Lewis Michael. If this is your first time to one of my videos, we always do, the first part is always spoiler free, so if you haven't watched the Batman yet, you're good. And when we get to the second part of the video, that's when I do go through spoilers and get more in depth and details and stuff over it. But make sure you like and subscribe, and let's get into the review. The Batman movie review. Fear is a tool. When that light hits the sky, it's not a calling, it's a warning. Robert Pattinson warns the thugs of Gotham as he puts on the iconic cape and the hard-boiled neon noir inspiring The Batman. Directed and co-written by Matt Reeves with cinematography by Greig Fraser. The film is set in year 2 as Batman is hunting down the Riddler, a serial killer who preys on the city's elite and expose the corruption of Gotham. The film is being praised for the performance, cinematography, art direction, action sequences, and stories, which are rightly dissolved. However, the audience may feel a little underwhelmed with this new Cape Crusaders film. The Batman started as Ben Affleck's standalone Dark Knight movie with Deathstroke as the main villain. Matt Reeves was brought on board to help Affleck with the movie so he could focus more on the characters, with Zack Snyder's stepping down and the troubled production of Justice League movie. The actor stepped down as well, giving Reeves the freedom to create his movie. The director enlists the help of screenwriter Peter Gray to flesh out a new Batman story. Once again, the casting choice of a comic book character proved the naysayers wrong. Robert Pattinson Batman is a broken soul who both crippled and compelled by his unresolved pain. Unfortunately, his Bruce Wayne is nowhere the charismatic playboy we are used to. Despite it being year 2, Paul Daniels does very well as the deranged Riddler. There was times I loved his Zodiac-inspired Riddler, then there were times I felt it was too much Jim Carrey's Riddler. Each actor and actress gives top-tier performance, especially Zoë Kravitz and Jeffrey Wright. Assuming this would be the superhero version of Seven was perhaps wishful thinking. The villain is steadily making a statement by murdering the elite and does appear to reign 90% of the time, but those are the only similarities. One could appreciate the mayhem the Riddler brought to this mystery, but his presence could have a greater impact on the false viewing if it had been utterly unexpected. His presence as a mysterious figure of justice in the 21st century provides a terrific backdrop to Batman's ongoing efforts to reduce crime in Gotham. But expecting him to be the major attraction of this psychotic city is where the story runs into issues. The grim, gritty setting that writer and director Matt Reeves have built for his journey into the world of Gotham relies heavily on the atmospheric styles of the cinematography, production design, film score created by Greig Fraser, James Chin-Lung, Michael Giacchino. Fraser pits light sources against the shadows that imprison the world's edges, where darkness and light coexist and one is frequently absorbed by the other. The pulsing music of Giacchino's score provides eeriness to the film's scariest moments. The narrow and claustrophobic bleak design of Gotham could be a callback to Gotham video games, one of the inspirations for Ben Affleck's Batman films. Arkham video games are not the only works the director was influenced by. The Batman is inspired by the works of David Fincher in the 70s neo-noir films like Dirty Harry and Glute. Batman The Long Halloween and Batman Year One comics are used as Bible references for the story by the writing team of Matt Reeves and Peter Gregg. The story is the product of taking two Batman comics with different plots and themes, then mix them together to create a so-called original story. The pacing of the story suffers from this, which caused parts of the film to be slow and directionless. Despite the fact that the Batman was based on the comic Batman Year One, Matt Reeves and Peter Gregg chose to set the film in Year 2 of Batman's crime-fighting career. There's an odd choice seeing how Batman was still making rookies mistakes, though by the end we got the Batman we all know and love. However, it doesn't fix the Bruce Wayne persona and his relationship with Alfred. Batman should have already been start laying out the playboy persona by the beginning of the film, and an emotional scene with Alfred towards the end of the film should have already happened before the film timeline. Setting it in Year One would fix these problems. However, the Riddler may be too much of a primetime villain for Year One Batman. The Batman isn't the disappointment it would have been if not for the excellent cinematography, Arkham-inspired design, eerie soundtrack, and an ensemble of the talented cast and crew. Okay, so this is a part where we go into more spoilers and more details into it. So if you don't want to get spoiled and haven't seen the movie yet, make sure you like and subscribe, and we see you next time. Make sure you check out the links in the description. There's links to Geek Around Network, the website where you can find more videos and articles and news and a whole bunch of other stuff. Also check out my Star Wars comic, Kira, A Star Wars Story. The link is in the description. And if you ever wanted to make your own YouTube channel or podcast, there's my gear list, which has a list of all the equipment I use to make these videos, as well as stuff I use for my comic book. But yeah, so I really like the Batman. I think Matt Reeves did a really good job with this. I am a huge Snyder Ben Affleck fan, so even if we don't ever get anything from the Snyderverse and we don't see Ben Affleck as the Batman again, and this is the direction they want to go, that's cool. I mean, I don't mind. I mean, I really love to see Ben Affleck's Batman again, but I'm okay with the direction they might go with this. I love the opening to the Batman. The fear is a tool. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I love the opening, and it's so cool. I recite it here real quick. The city streets are crowded for the holiday. Even with the rain, hidden in the chaos is an element, waiting to strike like a snake. But I'm there too, watching. 2 years of nights have turned me into an nocturnal animal. I must choose my target carefully. It's a big city. I can't be everywhere. We have a signal now for when I am needed. Fear is a tool, but when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning to them. They think I'm hiding in the shadows, but I am the shadows. I really love that opening scene, and like that guy who robbed the store, he looking down in that dark alleyway, just expecting Batman to come out from the shadows. It just was so awesome. Really helped set the tone for the rest of the movie. I was very disappointed though that was basically all the voiceovers that we got, the narrative. Because most of those old detective noir films, they had voiceover throughout the whole movie and not just at the very beginning. Then we got a little bit at the very end, which we would get back to that in a second here. I thought the tone of the movie overall and in the grittiness, and I don't feel like it was much more dark on than what we have seen before. I mean, I feel like really Ben Affleck's Batman was much more dark on. I mean, maybe more of just violent and brutal, but I don't know. I just don't feel like it was the darkest Batman. And I mean, I think they played it too safe. I wanted to even go more into that dark one. But yeah, I think Robert Pattinson Batman was perfect. I think his Batman was absolutely perfect. And I do have some issues with his Bruce Wayne, which is not on him. It's not that he acted bad as Bruce Wayne. I mean, his acting throughout the whole movie was great. It's just more on Matt Reeves and Peter Greg's, how they wrote Bruce Wayne into it. So I don't really blame Robert Pattinson for it. But yeah, he proved all the naysayers, and I'm still arguing with people on the internet like, guys, this is not Twilight Boy anymore. This is Batman, and he proved himself. So yeah, so shut up about all that crap. If you still think he's not good, then I don't know what to tell you, because even though I don't think this was an epic masterpiece and 10 out of 10 movie, and I don't think it's the best Batman movie or the best superhero movie, I still think Robert Pattinson did a great job as the Batman. And I think we will get to see more of the Bruce Wayne later on. We'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end there. Zoë Kravitz as Catwoman, I think she did great. I know a lot of the movie critics are going to gush over Hong because she's a black female, they just gonna, like Zendaya's, they just gonna, for some reason, focus on her acting, and they did fine. I mean, I think Zoe Kravitz did a better job than what Zendaya's ever did in any movie I've seen her in. Not that she did bad, she's good. I mean, if you want to know more about Zendaya's, check out my Doom review or my Spider-Man review. I think Jeffrey Wright was a great Commissioner Gordon. This goes kind of back to what I said in a previous podcast episode of the podcast, where I said that, this is one of those gender swaps that people are not going to hate because how great Jeffrey Wright is as an actor. And I think he acted as Commissioner Gordon perfectly. I do think though that they should have made him a little bit more smart, like him and Batman going over the riddles and stuff and trying to solve the puzzles, and so like he was there with him and working it all out with the Batman, but I feel like they didn't give him enough credit. Like, he should at least solve some of the riddles by himself. And I mean, the reason why he became commissioner, why he was actually a very good detective. If you look at Batman: The Long Halloween, he actually teaches Batman a lot of detective techniques and cop techniques, and he even told him, like, hey, if you're really gonna do this vigilante thing, you're gonna have to learn a thing or two about detective work. That came directly from the comic. So, and they was inspired by that comic, so therefore I don't understand why they didn't have him be a little bit more smart on. Hope we see more of him, definitely. I know they canceled the Gotham PD spin-off show on HBO, and now it's going to be Arkham, which I'm kind of excited for that. But hopefully we see more Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon and stuff, because I think he did an excellent job. But everyone in this movie did an excellent job at acting. Like, I don't think there was one person I can think of that I thought was bad. Colin Farrell, I never really liked Colin Farrell ever, and I thought he did pretty good. I do feel like he sounded a little bit too much like Robert De Niro, but if he was trying to be Robert De Niro, he did it perfectly. I mean, that was the best impression of Robert De Niro ever. And like, if we didn't know that was Colin Farrell, I bet a lot of people probably be thinking that was Robert De Niro in a penguin mask. But I mean, he did great. His acting was great. So even someone that I do not like, that he did great acting, and everyone on this film did. It was good. So this was inspired by a lot of the movie Seven, and how the Riddler is, and how he's much more deranged and more of a psycho, more of an evil serial killer than just a goofy guy who likes puzzles. And I never really been a big fan of the Riddler. I just always thought he wasn't all that interesting as a villain. Paul Dano's performance, like every time I see him, is always great, and I just kind of wish when he was more collective and more calm, and he had that really deep voice, and that Zodiac voice, I think he was much more terrifying like that. But then when he gets when him and Batman meets at Arkham, when Batman, I can't quite remember what Batman said, but he goes off and he started making these high-pitched noises. And at the time watching the film, I did not know that Matt Reeves had cast Paul as the villain because he liked his performance as Brian Wilson, the band leader of the Beach Boys, and he was the main guy who created the music, and he was deaf in one ear, so a lot of times he would make these high-pitched noises so that he can hear and stuff, and a lot of deaf people do that. But the Riddler isn't deaf, so it made no sense for him to do that. So to me, like I said, there was times that I really loved his version of the Riddler, but then when he started going all crazy and stuff, it kind of reminds me more of the Jim Carrey, funny, silly, It was great in Batman Forever, or Batman and Robin. I can't quite remember. I think it was Batman Forever. But whatever. It just, to me, it didn't felt right in this movie with the more realism and more darker tone to it. Everything else about the Riddler I really loved, and so one of the best things about this film was the cinematography. And the cinematographer is Greg Fraser. He done Dune, which if you go back to my Dune review, I talk a lot about the cinematography and how great it was. And Greg Fraser, I think, is becoming everyone's favorite cinematographer nowadays. And we hear about that tunnel scene where actually it was practical effects and no CGIs were used for that, and Batman just beating the shit out of these guys shooting at him, and all of the only light that is in this hallway is coming from the machine guns that when they fire at Batman, and Batman beats him down, and the light goes away. And it was one of the best scenes ever, and there was so many great shots, camera angles and camera shots that was just so great. I mean, I think this is going to be a movie like Dune that some kids oh my god, I want a camera and want to become a cinematographer. Greg Fraser is my favorite cinematographer now. Also, he did, we talk about Dune, he did Rogue One, the tunnel scene with Vader in that. Now we saw that something similar to each one of his movies that he worked on. Seems like he really put his own stamp into a lot of these scenes. And he also did scenes in The Mandalorian, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, this is one of those perfect examples of cinematography movies with great camera work in it. The production design throughout this whole movie, there was scenes of the dark alleyways, and that part when they go to the Riddler's, him and the Batman and Jim Gordon go to the Riddler, and I think it was the orphan, I can't even say, the building for the orphans, the old building, and it was the Riddler painted the question mark all over this doors with green paint and stuff, and reminds me so much, all of these, the set designs and stuff remind me a lot of Arkham Asylum, the video game, and where you can go through all these dark alleys and very narrow, make you feel kind of claustrophobic and stuff. And I think the production design was really good. As I said in the review, this actually was supposed to be in the Ben Affleck's movie, too. That's more grittier on darker of Gotham. And I think this is probably one of the best representation of Gotham we got in a long time. Because like in The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, to me it just felt like New York or something, or Chicago. It was just so happened to be at nighttime. That was it. That's all it felt like. Where like, you know, in the Tim Burton Batman, it felt more gothic and something that came out more from the comics. Now with the Snyder stuff and, you know, Ben Affleck, they didn't really get to explore it very much, so we never really got to see Gotham all that much. So we can't really say it's better than Batman vs Superman or Justice League, because we never really got to see Gotham in that. Like I said, I really hope we see Ben Affleck's, and there has been rumors about how there's gonna be reshoot. That's why all the movies now are being delayed, to put Ben Affleck in the Snyderverse stuff along with Henry Cavill as Superman, because the Flash was supposed to originally kill off or end the Snyderverse, and now they're doing reshoots to start it back up again. So hopefully those rumors are true and we get to see that. Now the soundtrack was very good. The music was eerie, it was kind of creepy at times. It was perfect for a Batman film. Although I do feel like the main Batman theme and that re-edit, I guess, remixed version of Nirvana's cover of the Beatles Something was used a little too much. It was like in The Last Jedi, where they kept using Luke's and the Force theme over and over and over again. It's like, why even have John Williams come in to make more music when you just reuse the same music over and over again? Was there anything for John Williams to do with The Last Jedi? Probably not. But no, it was actually really good. And like I said, with the dark, gritty, grim set design and the cinematography, it really set the tone and the mood of this Batman film very well. And like I said, I'm okay if this is the future of Batman, and I like how everything is looking so far. So one of my biggest problems is, even though they was influenced by Batman Year 1, they set it in Year 2, and not quite sure why they did that. Like, we see Batman like still struggling with some Batman stuff. There was this really cool scene where he's being chased by the cops, and he goes up all the way up to the top of the building, and he's about to fly down. But you can kind of see that he's very nervous, that he hasn't had to do that yet, you know. And so, I mean, well, what you been doing 2 years? He never had to run away from the cops at this point, or run away from some people, or has to fly down. I mean, that's pretty, you know, Batman, like, you know, that's a staple of Batman's techniques and stuff. You know, we always see that. I mean, it's like us gonna be watching the Obi-Wan TV show, and you see Vader having trouble learning how to force choke people. I'm like, no, he knows how to do it. He already done it to Padme in episode 3. He can already do it. Why would he not be able to do it now? You know, it's like, well, this is Year 2, he's still learning, blah blah. But he had a lot of it down in Year 1. Whether or not you going by the comic book Batman Year 1 or Batman The Long Halloween, you know, because that shows his early days as well. It just was weird that it's Year 2. There was like a scene towards, well, actually there was one scene at the beginning where we first meet Alfred, played by Andy Serkis, who I think does a pretty good job as Alfred. They kind of get in an argument, and Bruce Wayne says, or Batman, whatever, says, well, you're not my dad. I felt that was really off. Year 2 Batman, where he's supposed to be in his 20s or something, and he'd been being raised by Alfred for the past good 10 years, if not more, you know? Like, that made no sense to me. To me, that was a conversation that should have happened in Year 1 or even way before that. That was kind of weird that he said that to me. Then there was a scene at the end after Alfred gets blown up, and yes, he does get blown up, just like how Batman gets blown up on point blank and never even doesn't even die. I'm like, So you can get blown up in this place. You can get shot and killed with one shot, but if you get blown up, it's okay. We got special blow up band-aids. I don't know how Batman or Alfred even survived the time they got blown up. But yeah, anyways, Alfred gets blown up. He's in the hospital, and him and Bruce Wayne had this heart-to-heart talk. And again, I feel like this should have been a conversation they would have had before year 2. So I mean, it just, again, this what really made me not say that this was a 10 out of 10 Batman movie, or this was an epic masterpiece like a lot of people. It made no sense whatsoever that a lot of these things are happening in year 2 and not in year 1. I just don't know, and I haven't really looked at many reviews, listened to any interviews with Matt Reeves or anyone from the film to see why they decided to do that. I mean, I don't know. My only thing was that, like, I guess because they wanted the Riddler in there so bad, but like the Riddler is too much of a big time, mainstream villain, and so he needs to be a year 2 Batman to be able to take him on as a villain. Not where year 1 it would be more of a, to me, like Carmine Falcone or Sam Maroney is one of those mom bosses. Like I said, I really did like this movie, and there's a lot of great things about it. And like I said, if this is the direction that DC and Warner Brothers wants to go down when it comes to the Batman, then that's cool. I think it's gonna be pretty good, and I'm happy with it. But I really would like to see a Ben Affleck's Batman movie, and if it just has to be an HBO Max only thing, then that's cool. I mean, at least we got to see Ben Affleck's Batman. But I am excited about the Arkham spin-off from the Batman, and I don't really care about the Penguin one, because I'm just tired of seeing the Penguin. I really hope that they start using new, Batman villains. I mean, I want to see Man-Bat, I want to see Professor Pig. I think with this more dark and psychological thriller type, I think Professor Pig could easily work. I'd like to see Manhattan. There's so many people I like to see, but of course people just like, oh, let's see Mr. Freeze and Bane and Poison Ivy. But did you like it? Leave your opinion in the comment, and what was your favorite scene, what you liked about, what you didn't like about it. Make sure you like and subscribe so that you don't miss any of my videos, and make sure you look in the description for a lot of cool stuff like the Geeking Around Network website, my Star Wars webcomic, whole bunch of cool stuff in there. I see you next time. Bye.